Welcome back to the After the Credit Show. I'm Mike alongside
Metal D.
Digital Dog Pound.
Yep.
Off the Rope Show.
New York Mets. It's almost baseball season.
This is a one-of-a-kind t-shirt because everybody else ordered theirs in white, so I got the only one in black.
Yeah, fair enough. I didn't even get one.
You guys want to make an offer for it, you let me know. It's a size extra large. Off the Rope Show.
50 cents.
Anyways, on to what this video is about.
It's up there.
Yeah? But before we go any further, subscribe to this channel, like this video, tell your friends, get the word out about After the Credit Show, because we want to hit 1,000 subscribers.
And also, you can like our brand new fan page that we have on Facebook.
It's going to be linked down below. And coming up next Thursday.
That is the 20th.
At 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
Our time.
7 o'clock Eastern.
Mike and Metal D do it live. We're
Live.
going to take to Google Plus and answer your questions and talk about movies.
Join us.
Live from this room.
Yeah.
Not the other place that we record.
Probably not.
But anyways, on to Harold Ramis and our top 5 Harold Ramis movies.
Unfortunately, here on the 24th of February, we lost a great comedian in Harold Ramis, so we thought that it would be appropriate for us to tell everybody what our top 5 Harold Ramis movies were. Not necessarily if you starred in them or directed them. You could have wrote them, what have you. Just our favorite movies that he was associated with in some way.
This movie didn't make my list because his scene got taken out of it. But Harold Ramis had a part in High Fidelity that was deleted.
Yes.
Kind of wish he would have been in there so I could put it on this list because that is a great movie, but
yeah, from what
there's
I remember,
so many
I
in his catalog, it doesn't really matter.
Right.
So.
Right, but he had a lot of good stuff. Boy, and this list was a lot harder for me to make than what I thought it was going to be.
A little bit. I'm a little upset that they're still continuing talking about making Ghostbusters 3 now that he's passed away. Bill Murray flip-flops every week on whether or not he's going to be involved. I think it's time to just let it go. If you're going to do it, I think we just need to reboot, and I'm normally against that, but I would rather see that than a Ghostbusters 3.
I think I would have to agree with you at this point.
If you want, throw Dan Aykroyd in there in a cameo, Ernie Hudson in there in a cameo, but you don't need...
Right.
Yeah.
Right, I agree.
All right, so I will let you kick this off. You tell me your number 5 Harold Ramis movie. We haven't discussed this at all, so I don't know what he's going to say.
Well, in revisiting some of Ramis' movies since he had passed away, it's always unfortunate which you have to do that. But, you almost feel compelled to revisit, for, a star that you liked or whatnot.
Of course, I sat down and watched Almost Famous when Philip Seymour Hoffman
there you go.
passed away because that's one of my favorite movies with him in it.
Yep, and it seems like we do that all the time. But I did revisit this one, and it did find a spot on my list, although it did not hold up as well as what I wanted it to, and it's Ghostbusters. While I like the movie, I still do find a lot that I do like about it. I think that it was more geared toward my 13, 14-year-old self when I first saw it in the theater, and my memories of liking it so much back then. I watched it again, and while there was a lot that I liked, there was a lot that just did not keep me.
It's interesting how much they smoke in that movie. Nowadays, that would not fly.
Yeah, very taboo. Yeah, very taboo. There was a lot of good stuff in it and whatnot, but it just did not hold up well. It's an 80s movie. The special effects were very cheesy, and if they did that now, wow, I think that would just be mind-blowing, But,
right.
Given that was
made... For the time, though, it was
For the time,
1984,
it was top-notch. It was really good, and it still has a lot of funny moments in it, and I love the cast. It's just a fun movie, and it made my top 5. Number 5, Ghostbusters.
All right, my number 5 is a role where Harold Ramis played the father of Seth Rogen in the movie Knocked Up.
Yes.
He had a very small part in the movie,
small part,
but it was really good. Like, it stuck with you when you finished the movie.
Right, and it gave that movie kind of that down-to-earthness,
Exactly. You see Seth Rogen talking with his dad about, there's a baby, how am I going to go smoke pot? And,
right.
And Harold Ramis is like, well, it never stopped us.
Exactly. It was one of those roles that he did not overshadow Seth Rogen. He let him, do his thing. But he was just that nice little added bit part, you know,
Exactly.
as his father, you know, and then he was really good at stuff like that.
Exactly, and that's my number 5.
My number 4 is a movie that I snuck and watched as a kid that I probably shouldn't have, but I revisited Animal House, and that's my number 4. He was a writer in this. He was one of, I think, 3 writers in this movie. But just because he was a part of it, I know that he wrote a lot of the good funny bits in this.
Right.
And I'm willing to bet that one of the funniest bits was when Bluto had his famous speech, you know, about what did we do when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor? It was just that movie, you know, at the time when it came out, it was so taboo because it was supposed to be like all these dirty things that happened and whatnot. It didn't take long before that was it wasn't so dirty anymore, but it was still one of those things that I shouldn't have watched when I was a kid, but I did, and I watched it, and this one actually holds up, I think, better than Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Because the comedy feel is, you know, you felt like you wanted to be part of that group, you know, and whatnot. And you thought
there's so many knockoffs that came out after that movie as well. Porky's, other movies like that.
I just find a more human aspect to the comedy in this one than I do in some of the other stuff, you know, that's out there for comedy nowadays. And, you know, probably the last 20, 25 years, this one still will beat almost anything. It's better than that American Pie crap that keeps coming out every, you know, 4 or 5 years. So, Animal House, my number 4.
My number 4 is a movie that actually has Harold Ramis in it in a pretty big part. Him and Bill Murray. That's Stripes. Great movie. I had seen this movie a long time ago and just recently revisited it.
Right.
And thought it was amazing. It held up pretty well. Bill Murray, always awesome. And you could tell that at the time, him and Harold Ramis were good friends. Later on, they kind of fell off. Yeah. But at the time, you could tell that they were really good friends.
Right. And I think that you're going to be hearing about this one a little bit more down the line, so I'm not going to step on your shoes or anything like that. And I think that it's best for us to, you know, if you're ready, we'll just go ahead and move on and we'll discuss this. I'm sure that it'll come up.
All right, that's my number 4.
All right, my number 3 I saw again when I was a kid, probably 1983 at the movie theater, and I laughed hysterically.
I was 2 years old.
Wow, you're really... National Lampoon's Vacation. Not any of the sequels or anything like that, or, you know, any of the other franchise movies.
I'm going to hop in right here. That's actually my number 3 as well.
Then we can both discuss this at this point. Okay. This movie was, you know... You could tell also, you know, it seems like in every Harold Ramis movie, there's, like, one part in which there's, like, a speech.
Right.
And... for me, my favorite part in this movie was when Chevy Chase's character just went apeshit on the family. And said, this isn't a vacation anymore. This is a quest. We're going to get to Wally World whether you want to or not. We're just going to go. You know, everybody wants to go home and all that other stuff. You know, and there's so many funny things that happen along the way, you know. Some of it was a little racy, especially for the time, you know, the whole incest thing and all that other garbage. But, there's just so many funny moments in this movie, and Harold Ramis just was, you know, his writing on this was just fantastic.
And me putting this as a number 3, a guy who doesn't really like Chevy Chase, just shows you how well this movie was written.
And directed. Yeah, and, you know, his directing style, you could tell that when he directed this movie that he was still learning his chops a little bit, and it would get better and better as time would wear on.
And that's why he went with a guy like Chevy Chase, who was his friend who...
Right. And this is probably, you know, Chevy Chase to me, you know, didn't really do a lot in the movies for me to like him.
No.
This was one of them that I did really like.
And
you
the
probably
Fletch
throw
movies.
another one of Harold Ramis's movies, Caddyshack. You know, you can throw in there, and I'll probably throw in Fletch. But other than that, you know, there was probably 3 or 4 good movies that Chevy Chase has made, and the rest of them were pretty much duds. But this one was fantastic. I loved everything about it.
I'll go with my number 2.
Go for it.
Put your boots on. It's cold outside. Groundhog's Day. A movie written by Harold Ramis. Apparently, this is where him and Bill Murray had a falling out.
Yeah.
But filming the same scenes over and over again, I could probably understand how that could get a little annoying.
Probably so. Probably so. And again, I think that this one's going to come up a little bit later as well.
Plus, the fact that it was freezing in Puxatawny when they were filming this movie.
Right.
So.
Right.
And a lot of the movie takes place outside.
Yeah, and nobody really understands what Groundhog Day is really about, do they?
There's plenty of Groundhog Days where I've stayed inside and watched the marathon like over and over
Well,
again.
yeah, I mean, but I'm talking about the actual day itself. You know, who cares about a varmint coming out and seeing the shower? Not, you know, this is what it's all about. This movie is what it's all about.
And this movie, to me, is probably one of my favorite comedies.
Sure.
I can watch it pretty much any time. The story's great. How many days did he repeat? Because, I mean, he learned a lot of shit.
Yeah.
So if you have any guesses how many days he repeated, you leave them down below.
A lot.
All right, what's your number 2?
My number 2 is a movie that you had already mentioned, and it's Stripes. I really, really like this movie as a, you know, which is not a really big surprise. You know, he was an actor and he was a writer on this movie. And him and Bill Murray just, you know, fed off of each other on this movie. I don't know if a lot of this movie was scripted or they just kind of went off on their own and did a lot of it. Some of the stuff that I enjoyed on it, that, you know, when they first get into, and they're talking to the recruiter and whatnot, and he asked them if they were homosexual. And Harold Ramis pipes up and says, "No, but we're willing to learn." Just hilarious stuff. Just a funny movie. Again, it added a human element to it. And, you know, with John Candy in there. And
see, one of my favorite parts of that movie is when he throws the basketball and it goes out the window.
Yes.
And then Bill Murray goes over there, "Little help," and they throw it back and it busts the other window.
Yes. Perfect. Yeah, if you haven't seen this movie, or if you haven't seen it in a long time, I highly recommend that you do, because it does hold up very, very well. It's one of those army comedies that's been done a million times or whatnot, but this is a really good example of Harold Ramis' skill.
All right, my number 1 movie.
All right.
Ghostbusters.
Fair enough.
Movie I saw as a kid. It's a movie that stuck with me. I was a Ghostbuster for Halloween a couple of years ago. Peter Venkman, always my favorite, just like everybody else.
Sure.
But Egon needed to be there. He was the science guy.
He kind of he didn't really say a whole lot. He was kind of low key a lot.
Right.
And that's what he needed to be, and, you know, because everybody else, it was just like chaos.
Exactly. I mean, Ernie Hudson doesn't even talk very much in the movie. You got Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray, Sigourney Weaver taking over most of the movie.
Well, Rick Moranis.
Yeah, exactly. I had the opportunity to meet Ernie Hudson a couple weeks ago at Pensacon.
Cool.
Shook his hand, told him how much I loved Ghostbusters, and then a couple days later, Harold Ramis passed away.
Wow. Bummer, dude.
Yeah. All right, what's your number 1?
My number 1 was your number 2, and it's Groundhog Day. I think that this is the epitome of what everything that Harold Ramis did, all wrapped up into one. This is a perfect movie for any time of the year. It's, you know, I mean, it could be a romantic comedy.
Yeah.
But it's also got this human thing to it that I say human a lot because that's how he did his comedy. You know, it's hard to describe, you know, what he was trying to do here, but it encapsulated everything that you should want out of your life. And it's probably one of those movies that you could watch at any time to figure out, okay, where am I in life? And you watch that movie and then you can say, yeah, okay, that's where I want to be. Okay, so I'm going to go try to do that. Even if you just watch this movie once a year just to figure that. A lot of people watch It's a Wonderful Life once a year for that reason.
Yes.
This movie's down that same line, if you ask me. Okay, It's a Wonderful Life is a little bit more depressing, but this is funny.
And you got Chris Elliott in it, who's from Iowa.
Yeah.
So, added bonus.
I actually met him a couple times. But yes, I mean, this was just a perfect movie. And, you know, it touched on everything. Even had suicide in it.
Yeah, exactly.
But it made it funny because he kept coming back.
Exactly.
You know?
Where this could easily have turned into a dark comedy, and parts of it are a little dark.
Yeah.
But the overall message is, don't give up. learn,
Right.
and try to be a better person, everybody.
Try to be a better person. Yeah, exactly. And that's why this movie is perfect for any time of the year. And if you haven't watched it, go watch it. What are you waiting for? Watch all of these movies that we put on our lists. They're all worth watching. Harold Ramis, to me, was a genius.
Definitely.
So, very, very... You're gonna miss the guy a lot.
So let us know what movies make your top 5 from Harold Ramis down below. Make sure and subscribe if you haven't already.
Yeah.
And since 2013,
we've been reviewing movies.
For your pleasure. That guy.
That guy.
Over there.
Him?
That guy, the big guy.
No.
Oh.
Over there.
Oh, okay, that guy.